Haven't even done my makeup yet.
I don't put my face on.
I gotta put my face on. But I hope everyone had a great turkey day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's all good. All right, let's do this thing. Here we go. Sunday's action. Oh, we're going to start with Steelers. All right, here we go. And 3, 2, 1. Steelers and Bengals is the first game we're going to preview in part 2 of the Week 12 preview here on the Audible. Cecil, Lammey, and Sigmund Bloom. And why do I not get a good feeling about the Pittsburgh side of things, Bloom? Lots of things to step through, plus Pittsburgh facing kind of that Jekyll and Hyde Bengals defense where it's like, are they good? Are they not good? We know they can rush the passer. We know they can get after things. We also know you can move the ball against him. So what happens on Sunday?
Well, the reason you're not getting a good feeling is because Cincinnati won this game 24-10 in Pittsburgh earlier this year handily. But what this underscores is, I know there's a canard around the NFL. Oh, after Thanksgiving, that's when things sort itself out, right? See, I'm sure you've heard this, right? After Thanksgiving, that's whenever we see the real versions of these teams. And we're going to talk about a lot of games today that are power rank games that we may look back and see as the difference between a team making the playoffs and not. And this is absolutely one of them. Ben Roethlisberger's feeling better after he had a great fourth quarter, almost enough to come back and beat the Chargers. So this team may be feeling their oats a little bit on offense. But again, the Bengals dominated them in the first matchup. Not saying we expect domination. From a fantasy standpoint, you're going to play Deontay Johnson, probably play Muth, Pat Freiermuth, who continues to get red zone targets at a rate that nobody basically can match in the NFL. And then there's Chase Claypool, who's playing through turf toe. It's not a good case of turf toe. Not that there's any good cases of it, but he looked good enough last week to justify putting him back in the lineup. It does seem like maybe it's a little more Ben-centric offense, just as the Bengals are going the opposite direction.
Right. They're going the opposite direction because they want to run the hell out of the ball and set things up for Joe Burrow and play action passing. And people with Jamar Chase are like, well, but we like the other stuff. We like that more. Hell, people with Tyler Boyd or T. Higgins. How many T. Higgins should I drop? Should I shut him down? Questions have you gotten from fantasy GMs out there? I know I've gotten quite a lot there, Bloom. So against the Steelers, and we saw Alex Collins get 100 yards. So, throw it out the window. Like, oh, the Steelers are really tough against the run. You can find a way. And you can certainly find a way if Joe Mixon is your guy, which, again, if Samaje Perine gets some, backup work, that's worth a what-the-heck flex if the Bengals truly want to run the hell out of the ball.
And I think they will. Burrow struggled last week. Now, in the first matchup, they didn't have T. Higgins, so they could have a more potent passing attack. It was really just a couple of breakdowns by the Steelers in the first matchup, but you can always count on those. Now, we're going to watch to see if T.J. Watt is back. We're going to watch to see if Minkah Fitzpatrick is back, both pointing to yes here, and maybe Joe Hayden. We'll see about that. But you would expect it to be, like you said, Cease, run to set up the pass, not putting this offense on Joe Burrow's shoulders, but putting it on Joe Mixon's shoulders. So you're still going to leave Jamar Chase in, but you have lower expectations for him. Tyler Boyd, as Joe Burrow struggled, Tyler Boyd did more of the heavy lifting for him on third down. He also scored in this first matchup, but again, without Higgins. So this is that real test, is the Bengals have been through it. And now that Bengals win over the Raiders last week, looking a little more impressive in the wake of Thanksgiving. So again, it's a short season now, Cease. I wouldn't quite call it a sprint, but certainly, short track race. I don't know. I don't know enough about my racing circuit to say it, but there's a lot of games this week we're going to talk about and say these games are, if the teams want to make the playoffs, they have to win this game. This one qualifies.
This one definitely qualifies, and the next one up on Sunday is Tampa Bay and Indianapolis. Are you worried about Mike Evans, like, at all? We can jump through everybody else like we normally do with the Tampa side, and everybody knows them. And Antonio Brown's not back yet, but Evans with the back thing now. It's always something. He's usually okay, Bloom, but there's some signs this week, and he played through it last week on Monday, but there's some signs maybe you should have some caution when considering Mike Evans. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, Evans a little banged up here, a back issue. We're still waiting to hear about practice. And Tampa is one of the few teams that during this season of upheaval and tumult, they seem to be pretty steady and have a pretty good idea of who they are and how they win games. And it is the passing attack. And certainly Rob Gronkowski being back is going to help. Indianapolis isn't going to help us very much as far as their defense. But you are looking at Rob Gronkowski, who looked like he was back to his old self, or at least old self circa 2021 last week. Chris Godwin, who's been giving Tom Brady those high percentage looks as defenses are doing the take the big play away approach with the Tom Brady-led pass offense. And by the way, Frank Reich has faced Tom Brady once in 38-24. So, the Colts weren't really able to handle Brady. Now, that was 3 years ago. And then you're looking at Leonard Fournette, who's still a solid play, even though Ronald Jones got a touchdown last week. But you would expect Tampa to have a lot of success throwing the ball against Indy, even though they did do a pretty good job against Josh Allen last week. The bigger question in this game, Steve, is can this Tampa run defense that will get Vita Vea back slow down Jonathan Taylor?
And how much, like we're not going to say stop. They're not going to stop Jonathan Taylor.
Slow him down. Like whenever you're just dragging you, you're hanging onto their ankle, and they're just pulling you along with them.
Well, Bloom, we all know that there's speed bumps that you can kind of, hit that one about 35. I'll be okay, right? And then there's those speed bumps that are like, oh my God, like a roller coaster ride where you're like, I should have slowed down for that one. I've been driving my Jeep, if you can't tell, Bloom. Anyway, like suspension, what kind of, and I got a lift kit, what kind of speed bump can they be to Jonathan Taylor, which is what it's all about. I mean, I think I wrote up T.Y. Hilton yesterday for the news. It's like T.Y. Hilton's he's getting back out there. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't matter. Like you got Pittman, you got Jonathan Taylor, and you got that's it. And with Tampa missing those weapons, I wouldn't imagine that Buccaneers run away from them.
Right.
I'd imagine the Colts could keep it close with Taylor, which plays right in their recipe for success, which means start Taylor and Pittman, and then probably not many others from the Colts.
No. See, so I've got to ask you this because I know this now that I live down in New Orleans. Okay. What's your water fording height on that Jeep? Do you know?
I don't have a snorkel kit on it, so I could probably go about 4 feet in.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, if I had a snorkel kit, I could put the hood underwater.
You could drive to Europe. You could drive to Hawaii. All right.
I'm glad you knew that, Bloom. You're surprising me this morning.
You need to know these things if you and the Bronco has I think a good 17-inch water fording, which is all we really need in New Orleans. So again, the question here is this stubborn running game that was unstoppable really turned the Bills into roadkill last week. But this is a Bucs defense that is at its best against the run. Now, we saw the Eagles go against the Saints' #1 run defense a few weeks back and just left them in their wake. Just, again, roadkill. So is Jonathan Taylor that hot right now? Is Jonathan Taylor just that unstoppable? Is the running game that unstoppable? Remember, there's a lot of good breakdowns out there. We're showing Frank Reich, this running game, all the different concepts, all the different ways they're mixing things up. So even though it might make sense to not take the bull by the horns and have some more Carson Wentz in this game, I think the Colts are going to stick with that. Now, Carson Wentz becomes, a what-the-heck quarterback one streamer this week. If you're replacing a Patrick Mahomes or Kyler Murray's been your starter and you're scuffling. But you're right, Cecil. And of course, you're going to play Michael Pittman just because he can win his matchups, and they are going to have to pass some, even though Pittman is coming off of a low point so far in his season for fantasy. But this is a fascinating matchup because of tendencies, because of strength against strength, and also just, again, because the Bucs, while everything is so turbulent, seem to be on track for another tough playoff run. And the Colts, they look like right now the best team in the AFC.
Yeah, which is a dangerous thing. What does Carolina look like? That's the question here with the Carolina Panthers and the Miami Dolphins. Bloom, I feel like I've seen this game before, and it comes down to Cam Newton kicking the crap out of the Dolphins. Like I get a serious sense of deja vu, and I don't know why. So I'm just kind of letting my head leak out onto the internet, which maybe isn't a good thing, but like I just feel like, oh, we've seen this before. Oh, what? Cam Newton against a bad Dolphins team? Oh yeah, I've seen that before, and it's good for Carolina. which means it could be good for your fantasy team. But how good? And with who else besides Cam and Christian? We've got a DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson debate we could get into, but it's against Miami. Hell, it might be both of them.
Yeah, or neither with Xavier Howard and Byron Jones. Well, and that's the thing. Look, Cam Newton, and we're ready to pronounce him back for fantasy. So he's a quarterback one. He's absolutely someone you should plug into your lineup. He looks fine as a runner, and he can do enough as a passer. Like you said, Christian McCaffrey, he knows how to distribute the ball to McCaffrey. With DJ Moore, I mean, there's enough there to consider him as a wide receiver 3 flex type, but I don't think it's going to be a big DJ Moore game against these Miami cornerbacks. And like you said, Robbie Anderson's there, but there's not really that counterpunch. I think it's a two-man offense with Newton and Christian McCaffrey. But again, in the background here, they lost a tight one to Washington last week as Taylor Heineke played out of his mind. Is this team bringing on Newton, giving him really good money for a mid-season signing, showing that they still think they can make the playoffs. They still think they can make a run. Now, part of that, Cease, was the defense, was the quality of the defense that did not look that good against Washington last week. So maybe the key to the Carolina success is the defense against Tua, who's making his case now. Tua's saying, hey, don't forget about me, guys. I can maybe still be this team's franchise quarterback.
Yeah, and Tua can do it. Now with more Phillip Lindsay. Probably not this week. But you look at how they try to play the ball. Well, that means Mike Gesicki. That means Jalen Waddle. It doesn't mean much from the ground game, although with Myles Gaskin, you could have at least a nice flex play. I suppose, again, I'm not anti-Myles Gaskin. I'm just not I'm not a real big fan of his skill set or his game, but Miami with Tua, again, still trying to prove his own team wrong, which is so if you know the behind the scenes about the Tua stuff, I mean, they set up for a year to get Tua, and then they got him and they're like, well, we don't want him.
Right.
So now Tua's trying to prove to the guys that really wanted him that they should still want him. I don't know. I'm confused, Blue.
Yeah, it is confusing. Certainly the way they've handled Tua has been confusing, but the fact that he's come through and continues, at least against bad defenses, to play well and show that, hey, in his second year, should be more patient with these quarterbacks.
Yes.
There could be something there. And there could be something there for fantasy. Again, Taylor Heineke did well. This pass rush, I think, is going to be something that Tua is going to have to contend with, but he's got some streamer potential. You mentioned Myles Gaskin and feeling lukewarm about him. It's because he needs volume to be a solid fantasy play, but at least for this week, like you said, Phillip Lindsay got the claim from the Dolphins, so Lindsay could join this backfield. Even if he joins this week, it's going to be just sprinkled in, so it will be a Myles Gaskin week. And like you said, the offense also, it's running through the pass offense. Jalen Waddle, who actually scored on a handoff from Myles Gaskin last week out of the Wildcat, and Mike Gesicki, who's consistent enough at tight end to merit that. Really, Cease, the other thing is, so maybe this is a situation from a soap opera NFL reality show standpoint where the
telenovela,
right? A telenovela where they're fantastic. It's a great format because the actors come back, but the story completely changes every year. Check it out. It's fantastic, folks. But look, all of the talk this year, Cease, has been about Tua or no Tua. Go forward with Tua or without Tua.
Right.
Maybe the talk should be Flores or no Flores. Go forward without Flores. So a lot to get sorted out here, and we'll see how much this stretch run contributes to the decisions, a lot of big decisions that Miami has to make this offseason.
Yeah, it's they're either in concert or they're in conflict, quarterback and head coach. So, like, if it's not working with Tua and you set everything up for Tua, and that's the thing, like, I like Brian Flores. I know the players like Brian Flores. I don't know if he's a good head coach.
Yeah,
he might be one of those guys that's just a great DC. We've seen it before.
Exactly. And I think that's the question, right? We saw it with Josh McDaniels. We've seen it with the various offensive coordinators like Cam Cameron. The skill set of a good coordinator is different than the skill set of a good head coach.
Yes. And as Josh mentions in the chat room, it's all about the Jeep Wave. Bloom, I've ranted about this on my show in Denver. Nick and Cecil. But I said, like, please, and it's usually new Jeep owners, because I have an old Jeep. I have a 99 TJ Sahara, the humble brag. Anyway, old Jeep owners, we know, like, you see another Jeep, you wave. New Jeep owners are just like, I have this Jeep. Yeah, you get an email when you buy a Jeep, like, you're supposed to do the Jeep Wave. So do the Jeep Wave.
Okay.
Or you're not part of the Jeep family. You're out.
Right.
Okay, done. Uh, that's just me. I rant about silly things like Tennessee and New England. And oh my God, if you're Ryan Tannehill, what a week to face Bill Belichick, huh? You're like, oh, I'm going to throw 4 picks again because we know that Bill Belichick's going to take something away from you. And hell, he could just take Ryan Tannehill away, right? So you're coming off of that performance. So you try to have a get right game, okay? You try to like prove it's not me and I'm not going to throw 4 picks again. And then you're facing Belichick, who had to be licking his chops based on what we saw last week from Ryan Tannehill when it was awful and the Titans lost to the Texans. So now this week, Tennessee versus New England. How comfortable are you when you click that button next to those Titans names?
Yeah, not very. Interesting trend, Cease, that it seems like Belichick disciples do well against Belichick, right? Flores, we were just talking about. Vrabel's 2-0 against Belichick. One of the two being when they blew up the Death Star in the playoffs a few years back was Tom Brady's last game with
But he
New
never
England.
coached under Belichick, so that's.
How can you, if you're a player that goes on to be a coach, how can Belichick not be the biggest influence on you?
He has to be, yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I would still consider him part of the tree, even though he didn't coach. Either way, my point is that at least there's some history to look back to and say, hey, the Titans have played well under Mike Vrabel against Bill Belichick. However, that was with Derrick Henry. So again, AJ Brown, you're probably going to play him. It feels weird to bench AJ Brown if he's on the field, but you have to think Belichick's going to put a lot of resources to take him out. It really seems like a game sees that Dalton Hilliard again could have Dalton Hilliard. Whoa, that's a blasphemous pass. Dontrell Hilliard could easily have 8 catches again, maybe more than 8 catches, and then maybe Nick Westbrook Ikena and play. I mean, we don't even know what we have. This could be, if this was a futile offense against the Jets and the Texans when they were weakened, what is it going to look like against the Patriots? Probably you want to play the Patriots defense. And then the other thing here, Cease, is, again, like you said, being the hottest team in the AFC is an intro to a punchline, right? And maybe it is after this game that we will be talking about the Patriots as that number 1 seed, as that hottest team in the AFC. So this is a game where it's that pattern where whoever has the crown, the next team takes the crown from them until someone's waiting right behind them to take the crown from them. By the way, New England plays Buffalo next week.
Hey, okay. There you go. Now,
Yeah.
that's all. This season is like Game of Thrones, right?
Yeah.
Where it's just like plot twist, plot. They'll never kill Ned Stark. Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. In the New England side, it's like, well, you have 2 axes to swing. If I'm thinking of the guillotine or the beheading of Ned Stark, I would say your axes are Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson. So swing away, just fire away. And against that Titans defense, and you mentioned this when we were talking about, I think, Tyrod Taylor. You're like, well, if they didn't have those turnovers, their offense wasn't real good. But they did have those 4 picks, so that's why they were able to score and win against the Titans last week. The Patriots don't need those turnovers. They can just move the ball and even gash them with Stevenson. Like, that's the thing. And we saw it in the preseason. We've seen it almost every time he's out there. There's a 60, 70-yard run he's ready to rip off if he's got the opportunity. So, again, just run it all day. Keep Tannehill cold on the sidelines. Like, they can pretty much do what they want, even with Mac Jones playing conservative, Blue.
Yeah, and we're going to continue to see that, as there's no reason for this team to play at that razor's edge in the passing game, which is why, and look, Tennessee is another team like Kansas City. We're going into the year, we would say this is a weak defense, and the offense needs to drag the defense to wins. And now the defense might be the strength of the team. And the offense was able to move the ball well last week against the Texans. They just had miscues at the worst time. That's what the Patriots capitalize on. But it is a game that should be the running game. Now, Ramondre Stevenson ended up on the injury report with a knee limited. We don't like seeing that during the week. We're going to watch that. It could open up the door for Damian Harris to be a strong play. Otherwise, you're looking at both of them as upside. What the heck flex or emergency running back 2 types again. And you have Nelson Aguilar, Kendrick Bourne, Jacoby Myers, Hunter Henry. And Henry you're probably going to play because of the touchdown equity there. But otherwise, there are some pieces of a passing game along with Mac Jones, that are functional. And of course, the offensive line is a big deal here too. But it's not necessarily going to be a high-flying passing game, again, with Tennessee's defense playing better. And this game really could turn into a defensive battle, a field position battle, trying to force the other team into mistakes, as I think this week, after those mistakes on special teams, Ryan Tannehill throwing a near pick six from his own from the red zone, what was it? Grugier Hill returned to 80, 90 yards. That's going to be the order of business, and this could easily be a 13-10 boring kind of game.
Yeah, boring kind of game, but exactly how Belichick wants to play it, because it'll be a win every day.
Every day.
There we go. Since we got pot stoner degenerate Jason in the chat room, he's like, where's my Fangio impressions? There you go. Every day. I hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving every day, including Vic Fangio. We're not to the Broncos game yet, but we're to Eagles and Giants. That is our next game up, and we know that Philadelphia, well, they're running the hell out of the ball. I mean, just incredibly. But now, what's the latest on Jordan Howard? I don't think he's going to play, Bloom.
No.
So, okay, Miles Sanders, Boston Scott, you guys are up, and you guys are up to go and continue to run the hell out of the ball, setting things up for Jalen Hurts, who always has QB1 upside because of his own rushing ability. So now Sands their closer, because Howard really brought that energy at the end of games. Without Howard in, will they still continue to have that mantra, the mindset, the motivation to run it down your throat?
Yeah, because Jordan Howard was that totem, right? Jordan Howard, the introduction of Jordan Howard is really what helped focus this team's identity on running the ball. And without Jordan Howard, will they continue to do that? Certainly, they're going to continue to have that as the game plan. And that's why you like Miles Sanders. Again, Miles Sanders gets hurt and comes back to an offense that actually embraces what he does. It's amazing how things can change. But watch out for Boston Scott here, because remember, Jordan Howard got a big opportunity last week when Miles Sanders fumbled. And he's had fumble problems in the past. And then Howard got hurt and Sanders finished things up. But Boston Scott, definitely what the heck flex. Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert doing better in the run to set up the pass. Jalen Hurts doing better. And Hurts having one of his best fantasy, maybe his best fantasy game of the year last week, even though he didn't pass very much because he ran the ball in 3 times. And what a journey, by the way. We talked about Tua. And again, Tua and Hurts, their careers are intertwined forever, Cease. And they're both doing that thing this year, maybe overcoming their own organization's low expectations. What a journey for Jalen Hurts, and what a great display of mental toughness and belief in self, which he's been having to do for his whole career, basically. So this is kind of the routine for him. But here's the thing. Look at Philadelphia's schedule. They play Washington twice. They play the Giants one more time. They play the Jets, and they play Dallas. This is that season, Cease, a team that knows themselves, a team that gets hot. Remember, they've got big play Slay on the defensive side, 3 touchdowns already this year. You never know, and this team is getting hot at the right time. So I would expect that they should be able to continue their momentum against a Giants team that has a new lease on life.
They've got a new lease on life because they do not have Jason Garrett.
Where there's no Jason Garrett, there's hope.
There's life, right?
Yeah.
It's you're looking for life with your offense, and now I'm thinking about Jalen Hurts, and oh my god, I'm sorry, Bloom. I always do this to you. I'm like, don't belabor things. I got to get going, and then I'm like, let me belabor things. But I'm just thinking about the quarterback market. If you have Tua and Jalen next off season, because there's only like one Rodgers, there's only one Watson if he's able to play. There's only one Wilson. And you're going to have multiple teams. You're going to have a dozen teams after those 3 guys. So if you're really Philadelphia, because we've heard like, oh, they want Deshaun Watson. Okay, that's fine. I understand, and his skill as a passer. We won't talk about anything else right now. But like, if you have these young guys and the patience that you talked about, Bloom, I know it's win now and pressure and all these sorts of things, but you can win now with Tua. You can win now with Jalen. You might have to do it differently than you want to do, but why are you stubborn about the way you do things?
Yeah.
You have this asset that other teams that don't have it would love to have. Like, look at the market, know what you have, and know that maybe it's not Watson, Wilson, or Rodgers, but it's better than some of the crap other teams are trotting out there.
Yeah,
Anyway,
and they'll have 3 first-round picks, so they can build a juggernaut in the trenches or otherwise pick and choose whatever they want.
right.
Remember, they were able to get, if they had been sitting at 6 and took Devontae Smith, would we have thought that was a terrible pick? No. I
No.
mean, that was where the Dolphins took Waddle. So a lot of good moves by Roseman. And Nick Sirianni has shown the willingness to change, right? During the season, his first season as a head coach, this team had one of the most dramatic transformations on offense that we've seen during a season, Cease. So can we see a similar transformation from the Giants without Jason Garrett? And I think everybody out there, when you hear the name Jason Garrett, especially if you're a fantasy football player, it just takes the wind out of your sails.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I forget who it was that said, this offense, the Jason Garrett offense, is designed to get exactly 10 yards on 3 plays. It's just the perfect way to encapsulate what's wrong with the Jason Garrett offense.
Right.
So we saw earlier this year against the Saints in the second half, you started to see wild horses run free. Saquon Barkley was back. He scored on that wheel route, I think. Daniel Jones threw for over 400 yards. They won in overtime in the Superdome when the Saints defense was still good. So could that ignite something? Is there something? And remember also, Freddie Kitchens, let's go back just 3 years ago, Cease. Freddie Kitchens took over midseason as offensive coordinator when Greg Williams was named interim head coach, and Baker Mayfield looked like the man, right? Baker Mayfield, he got in touch. He and Freddie Kitchens figured something out. Then Freddie Kitchens got hired as the head coach. But at least for that little time, second half of that year, there was a lot of hope about Mayfield, a lot of hope about this offense in Cleveland. So could Kitchens do it again? We'll see. Unfortunately, we haven't seen Kadarius Toney practice yet this week after he got 12 targets on Monday night. We haven't seen Sterling Shepard practice this week. We haven't seen any kind of coherent plan to get your money's worth out of Kenny Golladay. He's a what the heck flex at best. Ugh. Darius
Is
Slayton.
Tony a what the heck flex if he plays? Because to me, I'm going to take a chance in deeper leagues if I've got Tony. And the word is, at least yesterday, Bloom, let me know if there's anything new, but like the word was like, Shepard's not going to play. Tony might. And if Tony might play, then I might consider him, but only as a what the heck flex.
Yeah, maybe if he gets a full practice, or we'll wait. Unfortunately, when we saw him come into a game banged up earlier this year, he caught 3 balls, I think, on the first 6 snaps and then left the game. So this might not be the game. I guess what I'm getting at is this might not be the game to determine the post-Jason Garrett effect. Maybe next week against Miami, and until they can get all hands on deck, if they can ever get all hands on deck. And I think that's a good reminder, as we saw when we were projecting this Giants offense going into the season. Look at all of these weapons. And there was a nagging feeling, but are they ever going to all be on the field at the same time, or even most of them on the field at the same time? Judge Smales, we're still waiting. We're waiting. Maybe you want to play the Philadelphia defense this week.
Maybe, just maybe, you want to just play your Atlanta Falcons against Jacksonville? I don't know. An exercise in futility.
Yeah.
Maybe we could call it that, right? Because we have Atlanta side. At least Cordell Patterson's going to play. Cordell Patterson makes me happy.
Yeah.
So, yes, start players that make you happy. Kyle Pitts makes you happy, Bloom. And, well, start him against Jacksonville and maybe not many other players from the Atlanta side. You're going to look at the Jacksonville game and go like, it's my week to start Falcons. No, it's not. Not outside of Cordell Patterson and Kyle Pitts. Let's go.
Yeah, and I think that's what you hope, is that Patterson being back helps Pitts. Pitts being out there helps Patterson. Is a Jacksonville defense has been reasonably stingy. They gave up some long drives to San Francisco last week. But, yeah, this is a game mainly to determine draft order, mainly to give maybe Quadri Olison more opportunity, wondering why he should have gotten more all along based on how he ran. And that's it. This is a black hole of offense kind of game. I guess all the fans of these teams, at least they have, the Georgia Bulldogs? And I don't know, Florida just fired their coach, right? So I don't know if you're a fan of Jacksonville, what you got right now.
Yeah, you're Josh. You're down in Jacksonville. You got your Jeep. You're fine. You're fine. The Jacksonville side is interesting. James Robinson should play. Okay, which means you should play him. Low end RB1, RB2 with upside. Yeah, that's James Robinson. And then you look at Visca as a what the heck flex. Maybe Marvin Jones Jr. is a wide receiver 3 deep flex. Like, Sure, you just don't feel good though. Even Dan Arnold, where you're like every
Yeah.
time you're going to get the 60 yards and then you got nothing, and you're like, oh my god, I can't even trust Dan Arnold. What kind of world do we live in where Dan Arnold can't get you 60, Bloom? Well,
Yeah.
I guess it's the Jacksonville world.
Yeah, San Francisco did a good job on Arnold last week, but it certainly is a what the heck tight end. You could go back to him. James Robinson's in your lineup just out of honor and respect to what he does out there every week playing for a bad football team. And then you have Visca. Urban Meyer said he wants to get him more opportunities. Well, okay, better late than never. So certainly what the heck flex this week. And then, like you said, Marvin Jones, it's the Atlanta defense. So if you want to have something to brighten your day thinking about starting your Jags this week, it's the matchup against Atlanta. But we haven't seen anything remotely resembling. See, not only have we not seen a good offensive game from the Jags yet this year, we haven't even seen any kind of attempt to develop an identity. Right. And I don't know how much of this is Trevor Lawrence. Maybe we overestimated him, or at least overestimated what he would be early in his career. How much of it is organizational? How much of it is Darrell Bevel? I have no idea. I just know that this is an offense that sees they're just sitting in the driveway trying to get the engine to turn over. But then you lift up the hood and there's not even an engine in there.
You lift up the hood, you're like, oh, that's you got a gerbil on a wheel. You're like, oh,
exactly. Tumbleweeds, stray cats come running out. Yeah.
Oh, sometimes it's just about draft position, which leads me to Jets in Houston, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. This one, it's like, what's the Thanksgiving leftovers? Like, it's good on Thanksgiving, and then except for leftover turkey on Thanksgiving. By the way, still down 3 pounds this morning, Bloom, 212 this morning. Yeah. And I did not deviate from my plan, my weight loss path yesterday during Thanksgiving. Hope everyone had a great time. But like when you go back to the fridge, you're like, well, that stuffing was kind of good yesterday. And then you rewarm it, it's not good. Yeah. That's what I feel like when we're talking Jets in Houston. I'm like, oh, Thanksgiving, you had some stuff. It was interesting. Hey, let's go Raiders, right, Jason? And then you go back to the fridge, you're like, Jets in Houston, I'll take it. It's not real good on either side. And on the Jets side, are you trusting Tevin Coleman? I'm not.
No.
Are you trusting Ty Johnson? Maybe. I mean, Ty as maybe like a what the heck flex, maybe have to be pretty desperate to do that. Love Elijah Moore. Want to see more of Moore. Love getting louder with Crowder. That's fine. But, okay, the return of Zach Wilson against the Texans. What does that mean for the Jets, without Michael Carter, Bloom?
Yeah, this is a game, like you said, top 5 draft implications. And I guess when it comes down to it, the picture you drew, Cecil, it's like the viewing guide, right? If you have to watch a football game, if it's the Jets and Texans, it's like that in the back of the refrigerator. Is that mold growing on it? I'm going to smell it. I don't feel like I should eat this, but I'm really hungry, and it's the only thing in the refrigerator. Well, thankfully, there are other games to watch. But the big questions here are, is the Jets offense, right? The Jets offense with Zach Wilson had that mold growing on it. It was going bad. It was well by the best before date, right? And then you add, it doesn't matter, Mike White, Josh Johnson, Joe Flacco. We have a pass offense. We have Elijah Moore, one of the breakout rookies of the year. Will that continue? Corey Davis got hurt during practice this week. Well, aggravated an injury. He already had a groin injury. So that helps the case for Elijah Moore. It helps the case for Jamison Crowder. And again, this maybe you look at Zach Wilson in a 2-quarterback superflex league this week because of the success that the Jets offense had when he was on the sidelines. Did he learn anything? We'll see, because it's the Houston defense that's red hot, actually. I think they've got 9 or 10 turnovers in the last 2 games. How much of that was their opponents? I don't know. So, these two forces, the Jets offense is coming on, but without Wilson. Like you said, Tevin Coleman and trust, those things don't belong together in a sentence. Ty Johnson, not necessarily we trust him. Again, though, we saw, especially Mike White, distributing the ball to the running backs in the passing game. Did Zach Wilson learn anything? That could help Ty Johnson, who's looked pretty good in the zone running game also. So a lot of talk because at least the last month without Wilson, there's some fantasy intrigue in this offense. Can't say the same for the Texans.
As Gina says in the chat room, I like Houston's D in this game. All right, so let's talk about it. What did we learn from Houston last week? Really, Bloom? Like, really? And is there a name that we have for players like James Robinson, Allen Robinson, and then, of course, Brandon Cooks, where you're like, I know you can play. I'm just sorry you have to play where you do play.
Yeah. I don't know. See, for some reason, what I was thinking when you mentioned that was like the soldiers left on islands in the Pacific after the World War II was over, and they would land like, I'm still fighting. The war's not over.
Right.
I mean, that's because for these teams, the war is over, but these players keep fighting, like Brandon Cooks. So he's a what the heck flex against the Jets. Tyrod Taylor, it's hard to want to go back to him even in 2-quarterback superflex because it was opportunistic plays by special teams and defense that set up his touchdowns last week. No, it was a slop fest, and we did give Tennessee's defense some praise. So we'll see if there's something developing here. I also got to mention, Cease, I'm not answering this named any start-sits questions, but here we are. Rex Burkhead is a starting running back. Like, has he even ever had an opportunity to be a true lead back like he is in Houston right now?
I don't think so.
I don't
Maybe
think
the
so
Cincinnati
either.
time, maybe, but like
Maybe just
injury,
for like a couple of weeks at the end of the year, yeah.
maybe.
It's just this is the NFL in the year 2021. If you wait long enough, a name is going to come up that you haven't thought about, and we still have another 6 weeks after this.
Like the Dalton Hilliard name.
Yeah.
Dalton Hilliard, Reuben Mays,
Yep.
Gil Fenerty.
Mm-hmm.
That was a hell of a trio at running back for the Saints back in the day. So I've got all their rookie cards, and they're not worth anything. Sorry. Although I do love Dalton Hilliard. It's funny, Bloom. I was talking about my Jeep, and then I got my phone must have heard me because I got an alert from the Dirt. Unpaid endorsement, DYRT. If you're an off-roader and you want to see like trails that are open to the public, but that the public doesn't know about, like government roads and stuff in the mountains, DYRT, the Dirt. It's an app for off-roaders. And I just got an alert. So that's, you wonder why I hate my phone, Bloom? It's because I talk about my Jeep and then my phone's like, hey, you need to go outside.
Right. And then the next thing you're going to get is an alert for 10 reasons to love your phone.
I get alert about something else. How about alert about Chargers and Broncos? There's your alert. It is a Broncos show, but let's talk about Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. Your tight ends, plural. Parm is what that flex tight end could be more against the Broncos. I think the Broncos are plucky defensively, spirited, if you will. But there are eyes that are being rolled inside the building when it comes to Vic Fangio and his scheme. Now, the team hates that I say that, but I'm only going to tell you the truth. When it comes to Pat Shurmur and Vic Fangio, there are rumblings amongst the players that, like, yeah, I don't like these guys, like, in their scheme, not them personally, okay? It's never personal. But this is what's happening as the cracks are showing in Bronco land. Welcome to Bronco land. Well, the cracks could be there, and I love how Justin Herbert understands the past of the Chargers and how he has to fight that. I almost wish Joe Burrow would come out and say that about the Bengals, because we've heard Herbert say it like, hey, we're battling who we used to choke those games away. We're not going to choke them away anymore. I love that from the young man. So obviously with your Chargers players, Bloom, you have some high hopes on Sunday.
Yeah. In this one, last year we saw a 1916 low-scoring win and a 31-30 bit of a shootout. So Herbert's coming on. Herbert's getting warmer. I think you like him. Another interesting storyline to this game, Cease. Brandon Staley, I mean, if he's part of a coaching tree, it's the Vic Fangio coaching tree.
Yeah? Every day.
Yeah. So he coached under Fangio in Chicago. Fangio brought him to Denver, and then he gets hired in a bit of a surprise. Sean McVay identified the talent in another young man there, compared to us at least, and now he's a head coach. So what did Staley learn about Fangio in the time that he coached under him that he might be able to use in this game? And this is another AFC power struggle game, right? And for Broncos fans, Cease, you're really in that conflicted place where do you want this team to collapse at the end of the year so that at least Shurmur gets fired, maybe Fangio, maybe there's a better, stronger feeling in the building that we have to hit reset? Because this team still can entertain playoff hopes. Absolutely, especially if they can win this game, and as can the Chargers. So the Chargers offense, not a lot of questions here. What we have seen is Joe Lombardi make this more of a dink and dunk offense. That's his MO. And Herbert has been doing better with it. So that helps Eckler, that helps Keenan Allen. And then last week you saw Mike Williams with the big 53-yard touchdown, maybe giving you some more confidence to play him this week. You mentioned Donald Parham. You have to dig deep for a tight end. But I'm very interested, Cease, although judging by how things have gone in the Fangio-Shermer era, maybe we shouldn't be so interested in what this team does on offense coming out of the bye.
Well, what do Joe Judge, Jason Garrett, Pat Shermer, and Vic Fangio all have in common? We might see it after this week if it's poor, if it really is poor. By the way, Gina in the chat room, no surprise, sticking up for her duck. She loves Justin Herbert, pretty mature guy. How do you rattle him? You know what I mean? Like Vic Fangio is going to try to rattle him. Well, how do you rattle Justin Herbert? He's not really rattleable. Yeah. Rattleable?
I like that.
I don't know. Something. How do you attack the Chargers? You run the hell out of the ball. They're 32nd in the league against the run. They're like number 4 against the pass, but is that because they're so easy to run against? Yeah, it could be. Numbers like that can be deceptive, but they're weak against the run. Pat Shermer doesn't want to run.
Right.
This should be Javonte Williams' breakout game. This should be Javonte Williams. Oh my God, that's why they took him. I love this guy. Look at him run through everybody. That's what it should be. But should be and Pat Shermer don't fit in the same sentence because, well, unless you're talking about he should be fired, and I hate to say that. Never want anyone. Yeah. Okay, fine. It's not personal, but Pat Shermer is not good at his job. I don't know why he has his job. I don't know why the Broncos stick with him. Oh yeah, they don't have an owner to make that call. So if Shermer fails this time and they lose in embarrassing fashion to a team that you can run on, and you have Melvin Gordon's playing good football, minus a fumble, you have Javonte Williams, who's playing really good football. This should be a run-heavy game. I know they paid Tim Patrick and Cortland Sutton, which makes you think they're going to feed those guys. Well, yeah, what are you going to do with Judy then?
Right.
Are they really going to feed anyone in the passing game?
Right.
They shouldn't in this game.
Right.
But for the love of God, and Sunday will be very telling, Bloom, Pat Shermer doesn't get it. He doesn't get it. He's too stubborn in his ways, which aren't good, and his system, which is not good. Because I should be telling you to start Javonte Williams to be the best fantasy running back this week. That's what I should be saying. But I can't say that because Shermer doesn't get it.
No. And look, the Chargers defense has actually stopped the bleeding against the run. So I'm not saying that Shermer would be right to not go with the run. I think that that's the best face forward of this offense. We'll see. It is coming off of a bye week. Like you said, they signed Sutton and Patrick. But with 5 weapons here, Sutton, Patrick, Judy, Fant, and Alberto, and an offense that isn't exactly a prolific pass offense. Remember the last time we saw Teddy, it was one of the low points of his career. You know? Yeah.
So
how does he respond? I'm not worried about how he responds. I am worried about the game plan here. The Chargers defense was good for 3 quarters against the Steelers. But really, Cease, you have Jerry Jeudy in a PPR league you're going to play because you know he's going to get at least 5 or 6 catches. They're setting him up with a lot of high percentage, tunnel screens and things like that. And that's it. I think that Sutton has like 5 catches in the last 3 games. Patrick, maybe you hope for a touchdown. Fant is going to share with Alberto, who, as you pointed out, Cease, Alberto is his equal as a weapon, as an athlete. So, again, Cease, I just see the range, and this is directly like your job, the show within the show. How's Cecil feeling about covering the Broncos? We could be anywhere from, hey, don't count this team out. Don't count this team out to win the division. Don't count this team out to make some noise in the playoffs. Maybe Teddy is redeeming himself, and so is Shermer, and so is Fangio. Or we could say, okay, that's the last straw. So many of these wins are bogus, counterfeit wins, and if you can see through it, you can see this team is heading nowhere. And anywhere in between, and see, this is going to be the hallmark of this 4 o'clock Eastern start set of games. Every one of these games is one of those games that can be a springboard or a stumbling block for both teams involved.
Yes, and what are you going to do when it's mutiny on the high seas in the Mile High?
Ooh.
Still watching too many sailing videos. Gone with the Winds. It's a nice channel. They're nice people. And nice catamaran. Let's talk about the catamaran that is the Rams. Like, that's Dream Team, right? You get Dream Team vibes when you talk about the Rams? Sure, I do. Going up against the Packers. Rams and Packers is up next. And Bloom, who can you trust from, Cooper Kupp. Okay, yeah, let's go there. Maybe some Tyler Higbee. What's the weather going to be like in Green Bay? That's the first thing. NFLweather.com. It's a great place to go if you ever want to know that for you degenerates out there. But on the Rams side, it's like, yeah, it's actually got to work. Now they have time, Bloom. They have time. It can come together and it can be magnificent and everything that they think it can be. It hasn't been that yet. So will that change against Aaron Rodgers? Is this where we show our feet? I know I'm more flexible now. So.
Right. I can't remember who it was that said, good thing it wasn't a groin injury.
Exactly. I have my copper fit socks on. Old man Brett Favre, right? Like, I get my elbow. I'm out there playing turkey bowl with the family on Thanksgiving. Like, where's my copper fit? A lot of unpaid endorsements in this one, Blue.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of good things that keep our lives enjoyable. Maybe not the Rams offense. You can think of it. See, you mentioned Dream Team. I remember that Eagles team that got Nnamdi Asomugha, and it's the idea of like, wow, they've got everything, and then the team just fell apart.
Well, that was Vince Young that said that, right? That was like, hey, it's like a dream team.
Okay, this is a big game. Both of these teams are chasing the Arizona Cardinals. And remember, the Packers have the tiebreaker over the Cardinals by virtue of that head-to-head win. But for the Rams, I guess it's this contrast, especially because football is such a team game, that you think of it like add better players, add more talent, and it's like accumulating your bank account balance, right? But it's not like that. It's chemistry. And when you add, you have some sort of brew, some sort of solution, and you add a new chemical to it. Maybe that chemical has certain properties that you want to add to your team, but those properties might not be transmitted to the solution because of the chemical reactions, right? So Odell Beckham obviously is on our minds here, Von Miller too. Matthew Stafford's in a slump. This is going to be a cold weather game. Also, Matthew Stafford, even though he played indoors in Detroit, is a pretty good cold weather quarterback. So we're not worried about that, even though it's a Los Angeles team. We're not going to play Odell Beckham except as a true what the heck flex. But coming off of a bye week, you saw Stafford and Beckham not really on the same page. And Stafford likes to throw some YOLO balls, which Odell Beckham can capitalize on at the other end. I don't know if they've gotten on the same page with that. This could be just something where whatever uniform you put Beckham in, the results are the same. And the results have been the same every week with Cooper Kupp. The results are good enough for Darrell Henderson to keep in your lineup. And Van Jefferson, we'll see. Tyler Higbee, good enough because it's the tight end position, but we're waiting for those ceiling games. I think this all focuses back to Stafford, though. Stafford's been playing his worst football of his short Los Angeles Rams career. The Rams have had a bye week now to figure this out. See, the Rams, they got beat by the Titans, right? They almost belong in the AFC, where as soon as you think they're a good team, then you watch them and say, maybe they're not a good team. The Packers, on the other hand, have been more consistent. And like you said, we all got to see Aaron Rodgers' feet. There's a Rex Ryan joke in there somewhere.
Yeah, Rex Ryan, and I could go a lot of different places with that one. Benjamin, one of our favorites in the chat room. We all love you. We love every single one of you. Rodgers slowly turned into Favre. Maybe he's going to wear the copper fit. I say my copper fit socks. I love them. So yeah, the toe. It's not a turf toe. It's worse than a turf toe.
It's a broken toe.
Yeah. So is it Rodgers being like Ben, where he's like, look at me? Or is it Rodgers he's in DGAF mode? I think it was Adam Carolla always talked about there's FU money and then there's F me money. Sorry, Joe, for even bringing this up. But like when you just don't care, right? When you're just like, I'm going to tell you everything. Hey, I hate these guys in the front office. And hey, look at my toe. And I haven't clipped my nails or whatever. Like he's in that kind of mode. And well, that's kind of his playing style, right? Like he's out there Favre-ish, not giving it. He knows what a nickel defense is at least, but like the fact that Brett Favre was a successful quarterback tells you everything you need to know about his physical skill set. Because it was awesome. It was incredible. And now with Rodgers, you're like, well, can you be incredible at home again, please? And going up against the Rams and their defense is going to try to prove everything. And we got A.J. Dillon to use that hammer. So how much does he get used? And then how does that impact what Rodgers does with his broken toe?
Yeah, last week he was magnificent with his toe, putting him in a lot of pain. So I think we'll go back to that. We haven't seen the Rams defense look scary. The big question here for fantasy is Aaron Jones going to play? With a bye week next week, with a notoriously conservative Packers medical staff, I'm going to say no. So, and it's an afternoon game, so you make some A.J. Dillon decisions, maybe without 100% knowledge. Maybe we'll get that after the show is recorded on Friday morning, so we're going to watch that. Also going to watch and see if Alan Lazard's going to play. That could dampen a little bit of the what the heck flex enthusiasm about Marquez Valdez-Scantling after his 75-yard touchdown last week. Another one of those dramatic plays that went all for naught last week. Week 11 was the week of amazing plays that we're not going to remember because of other things that happened after those amazing plays. But you would like Valdez-Scantling this week because you would think, Cease, that Jalen Ramsey will follow around Davante Adams, and that will leave a better matchup for Valdez-Scantling. We shall see. It also could just be another game where A.J. Dillon gets rolling. It is that time of the year. It is that kind of weather. A good matchup here, and one quarterback coming in hot, one quarterback coming in cold. In the cold.
In the cold. Team in the cold. Actually, I was thinking of the Spider-Man meme, Bloom, where they're all pointing at each other, right? It's you. It's Minnesota and San Francisco. Like, well, those are two. That's a Kubiak and a Shanahan. Okay,
right.
These are two teams that want to be. I want to be like Mike Shanahan, literally. So Minnesota, it's easy. Thielen, Jefferson, Cook. What's it mean for Cousins? Oh, he's having a career year. Yeah, he might not even be there next year. Again, back to our quarterback conversation of like, if you have Tua and Hurts, you should probably re-examine what's going to be available to you in the draft. Not a great class. And also what's going to be available to you in free agency and via trade. Only a few guys like that. So Minnesota, they've got Cousins. He's dealing against the 49ers. Will he continue dealing in this mirror type of game? Mirror on the wall. Is Kirk Cousins worth starting at all?
Right, yeah. There was some talk from the Vikings that they got something figured out last week, how to run their offense through their stars. And to me, that means first and foremost Justin Jefferson, who looks like he might be about to go on a tear that wins fantasy leagues for people. And then, of course, you have Adam Thielen. All he does is score touchdowns, and Dalvin Cook, who's running strong right now. So you would expect the Vikings offense to have a lot of success here against the 49ers defense, which hasn't really been tested. I mean, they played the Jags last week, okay? They had a really good game of it against Colt McCoy and the Cardinals. This isn't exactly a defense yet that I think we're worried about as far as slowing down a Vikings offense that looks like they're coming into their own. And like you said, it all converges at Kirk Cousins, who could easily be a quarterback one for the second half of the year. We're going to watch for this trend after the offense really came alive. Last week, they've had problems being too conservative. Remember the Lions game earlier in the year. Maybe they're past that. I don't think that have nearly those kind of questions against San Francisco Cease. And like you said, it's the Spider-Man meme as far as these offenses. Will that allow these defenses to get the drop, especially when you're the San Francisco offense that is predictable, even though bad defenses can't stop them?
And San Francisco offense now with more Debo as a runner, or I don't know.
Sure.
More Debo, more Brandon Ayuk, please. Again, when you're trying to set a message as a coaching staff, like we want you to practice a certain way. We want you to perform a certain way behind the scenes, work out a certain way, put in the time a certain way. Players get in the doghouse and then they get out. You're like, why weren't they doing that earlier? Like, oh, well, now they've had it coming together. So Brandon Ayuk, speaking of coming together, he's coming together in your fantasy lineups. And, well, Eli Mitchell limited this week. Is he going to play? Does it matter? Because they can just go to next running back X. By the way, they were, and I got this confirmed by a couple of people. They were interested in if Philip Lindsay would have made the open market. He didn't. But here we are another week, Bloom, talking about the 49ers backfield, which is messy unless you figure it out, and then it can be very good.
Elijah Mitchell's practicing, but not using the hand with the broken finger. That doesn't sound like he's going to play. A one-handed running back? No, I don't think so. No. So it could be a Jeff Wilson week in terms of volume, but he hasn't been very efficient. And also, if the Vikings offense is successful, maybe San Francisco has to pass more. Maybe we don't just get 22 pass attempts from Jimmy Garoppolo. But you're going to play Deebo Samuel, whether it comes in the passing game or the running game. You're going to play Brandon Ayuk, who is warming up. You're going to play George Kittle, who's looking great after his stint on IR. And again, this is a game that is on the short list to have the highest point total of the week. Remember, Minnesota was involved in one of those games. And again, we haven't seen San Francisco face an offense that might be able to keep up with them. So, and again, sees both of these teams, right? They're both 5-5, but yet in a one one-on-one matchup with any other team in the NFC, you give them a pretty good chance, right? Well, San Francisco has trouble with Arizona, but you get the point, folks. Minnesota all but beat Arizona. Arizona is considered that yardstick in the NFC right now, right? Minnesota went to Arizona and should have beaten them. If their kicker just made a chip shot, they would have. And, well, San Francisco has trouble with Arizona, but the point is, again, springboard or stumbling block, the team that wins this game should feel pretty good, not just about the remaining games on their schedule and making the playoffs, but being able to handle any team that they see in the playoffs.
Coming up on Sunday night football, it's teams that used to be each other. Like, I don't know. It's like battling your former self. We've been talking a lot about that, Bloom.
Yeah.
I've been writing about that, but it is Cleveland and it is Baltimore, and it's Cleveland going, well, we're probably not going to pay Baker, but whatever, go out there and try, Baker. Kareem Hunt should be back. What do fantasy GMs do with Hunt? And if Hunt plays, I trust him enough at least as a flex play, Bloom.
Yeah.
So we can discuss that and that impact on that offense with Nick Chubb, of course, and then whoever you want at wide receiver. Again, it's Baker, so trusting Baker is a little spotty. But Kareem Hunt's back, and that gives you some excitement in this pet cemetery contest.
Right. And this was the team. See, we always talk about the Steelers as the big brother that the Browns need to overcome to show that they've arrived. They kind of did that in the playoffs last year. Now, there was a point a couple of years back when the Browns thumped the Ravens. Last year they got swept, but in that 47-42 game of the year game, it did feel like the Browns found themselves in that game. We're not going to see a 47-42 game here, though, with Baker Mayfield limited by injuries. And, okay, we'll see if Donovan Peoples-Jones can get out there and if Jarvis Landry can get out there. They're getting in limited practices, but this is not going to be the game plan here is going to be the defense, keep the game low scoring, and a lot of Chubb and Hunt. And Hunt could be a really nice play this week because he's fresh and he may lead the team in targets and catches. So in PPR leagues, you especially like that. And remember, he was on a tear before he got hurt, and that was with Nick Chubb in the lineup. He actually got hurt in the first game that Nick Chubb was out for, had that calf injury. So the passing game just needs to keep the offense on track. The defense needs to keep the offense on the field. That's going to be the bigger part of this. But again, this is a big game. If Cleveland can go into Baltimore and win, they should feel good about. They're kind of like Denver seats, where you watch Cleveland week to week and you feel like, well, they need to scrap this and go back to the drawing board, or you think maybe they have something here. If they can go into Baltimore and win, not just will they have something here, seats, they could be in position to win this division. So this is the range of outcomes. It's wide for so many of these teams. It has been wide for the Ravens from week to week, or even from fourth quarter to fourth quarter.
Yes, from play to play with Baltimore. Now with more Lamar Jackson, his tummy's okay. A non-coof illness, and he's back in action. And you're like, okay, you about ready to go ham against Cleveland? Usually does. Swaggy P in the chat room mentions that. I can't put it on screen because of cuss words. YouTube, bang. Anyway, yeah, he's going to go ham. He's going to go ham. Now, is it Marquise Brown? Because he's got a thigh injury that is keeping him limited in practice. So let's talk about it. Mandrews and, of course, all the other targets that Lamar Jackson has at his disposal. And then old man game still got hair and ass. There's Devontae Freeman. How much do you trust him this week against Cleveland?
So this Cleveland defense, they've had their moments. They looked good against Joe Burrow. Well, Detroit doesn't count last week, but then everything New England did worked against them. So I'm going to expect a good game for Lamar Jackson. And of course, again, I want to remind everyone of that 47-42 game when Lamar Jackson disappeared for a little while, came out of the tunnel. Lead the. Can Justin Tucker kick a 79-yard field goal? I don't know what it was. Oh, there's Lamar Jackson. Great story there. So you like Lamar Jackson. I do think it's Freeman over Murray. Murray is a more straight-ahead, no-nonsense runner. Freeman's been doing more for this team, including in the passing game. You could see Brown back, Marquise Brown with the thigh getting in limited practices, but all that points to a big Rashad Bateman game here, and of course there's still Mark Andrews. This Ravens team again sees winning a game where they're below 15% win probability in the second half. It's now the fifth time. And it was Tyler Huntley, but it's kind of like a relay race, right? You just keep week to week. Somebody else does something to hand the baton off, and they figure it out. At the same time, Again, I got to highlight this. You're looking ahead. Some teams, depending on buys, we got buys until week 14 this year. Some teams after this week will have 5 games left. Some will have 6 games left, and it's a sprint. So everything that you've done just sets you up at the starting point of that sprint. We'll see how the Ravens measure up. I'm feeling pretty good about them with Lamar Jackson back this week.
Feeling pretty good about Monday Night Football?
No.
No? Okay, well, I tried, Bloom, but let's talk about it anyway. It's Seattle against Washington football team, and it's Seattle on the road. It's Seattle with Russell Wilson being broken. It's Seattle with who the hell at running back?
Right.
It's DJ Dallas week. Okay, sure. Right. DK, love him. Lockett, love him. Don't get anything. When something's broken, right. I don't want to get too personal with this one, but like when something's broken and you still trot it out there, right? The kids sitting around the table going like, what are we doing? Like, what are you guys doing? Right? Like, that's what we have here with Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll. And hell, they might clean out both. Everyone says they'll clean out Russell and keep Pete. Like, they may clean out Pete too. And what do we know about Pete Carroll? He's going to jump. It's like he did when he left USC, right? Well, what? Trouble? I'm out of here. See you guys. Maybe they just wiped the entire slate clean, and it's John Schneider trying to find a head coach and a quarterback.
Yeah, maybe. This is a game that it's sad to watch Seattle right now, and on the road, Washington's defense has been playing better. No, Russell Wilson's not an automatic start this week. I might not even say he's the best fantasy quarterback in this game. You're still going to play Tyler Lockett. You're still going to play DK Metcalf. There is a fear of missing out with them on your bench. Maybe Gerald Everett. They keep talking about how they need to get Gerald Everett more opportunities. So he could be your what the heck tight end. And you mentioned in the backfield, DJ Dallas looked good on his one drive. So if you need to throw Hail Mary at running back, it's DJ Dallas. See, so when I think Seattle and Washington at Washington, I just think of Robert Griffin III. Throw the damn towel. It'll always stick with me. And I think that was the game that we saw, whatever possibilities there were for Griffin, go down the drain. Similar story now for the end of the Wilson-Carroll era. Meanwhile, Taylor Heineke, just like some of the other quarterbacks we talked about, at a certain point this year, we said, well, Heineke's showing that all he is a backup quarterback. He's played to the limit of his abilities, which isn't very high. But then, not on the next week, this team goes on now a 2-week game winning streak against Tampa and Carolina. Maybe they could warm up. They could put a 3-game winning streak together. Taylor Heineke and this offense getting more confident. They could have something brewing here.
Rather than talk about Washington football team, did you know they redid Rocky IV?
Redid?
Like during 2020, during the lockdown and the coup.
Oh, Creed 2?
No. Sylvester Stallone went back and recut Rocky IV.
Oh.
He took out like the robot stuff. Remember that stupid, hey, I'm going to here to train Rocky, blah, blah, blah. Like he took out the C-3PO ripoff. And he put in more of like the Russia stuff. He put in more. So like he recut it. It's a different movie. I haven't seen it yet. I've only heard my friends talk about it, but I definitely want to see it because Hot Take Tuesday, Rocky IV is my favorite Rocky outside Rocky 1. I mean, it's the feels that you get from Rocky 1, but
it's when Rocky won the Cold War.
Rocky won the Cold War.
If you and me, maybe get a Gorbachev, hey yo.
Gorbachev with that map of Albania on his head. These are old man references, Bloom, but either way, like I think we could have a watch party of that where you and I watch Rocky IV redo or director's cut together. It's like 30 minutes of new stuff. He took out 30 minutes. He put in new 30 minutes of new stuff we've never seen before.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. Interesting. Very interesting. And anytime you get James Brown, Living in America. Yeah. This is hot. Oh, hey, Washington football team. We got to talk about them. Speaking of America, Taylor Heineke, America's quarterback. I don't know. Probably not. But either way, he might outperform Russell Wilson. There's no doubt about that. Antonio Gibson's banged up, whatever he's going to play. Terry McLaurin, he's going to produce. We know that. Logan Thomas.
Yeah.
Back. Maybe. No Ricky Seals-Jones, maybe. And with Logan Thomas, it's like he's going to be a tight end one when he returns. He should return, but this is Monday night. So unless you can pick up Gerald Everett off the waiver wire, which he probably isn't out there, do you really want John Bates? So you're running a risk if you're, starting Logan Thomas and just forget about it on Sunday. You have to be mindful. Watch the injury report on Saturday. We're recording this Friday morning for full disclosure. But let's talk about this Washington team because they're kind of feeling it, right?
Yeah.
They're like Apollo, they're feeling it.
The underdog, right? Taylor Heineke overcoming limitations, just working hard to get another opportunity, doing well. That he's peaking. That's good for Terry McLaurin. It's good for Antonio Gibson, who's been running really well after the bye. We may see Logan Thomas back, like you said. If we get word before the Sunday games kick off that he's definitely back Monday night, then you would want to consider him in this one against Seattle, whether it's the Seattle offense or the Seattle defense. It's just not looking good for the Seahawks. It's maybe the worst possible time this team could be playing on the road on a Monday night.
On the road on a Monday night. On the road with your what the heck flexes.
What the heck flex? That's right.
Yeah.
A day later, that means it's been marinating.
It's marinating. They got some powder for that. Anyway, let's talk about what the heck flex. When you look over your lineup, you need some of that punch. You are those Week 12 what the heck flexes. The 49ers running back situation is interesting, but somebody's going to be what the heck flex, whether that's Jeff Wilson. Hell, maybe it's even Elijah Mitchell there as well. I suppose Mike Davis is a what the heck flex. Don't feel great about it, but there we go. Samaje Perine, talked about him a little bit earlier. DJ Dallas as well. To the wide receiver position we go. Odell Beckham Jr. is a what the heck flex. That's where we're at with him. So that's what you get. Corey Davis would be among that what the heck flex type of levels as well. T.Y. Hilton, I brought him up earlier. Sure. What the heck flex there. So Bloom, you're looking over your lineup after Thanksgiving and you need some punch. Maybe your Thanksgiving opponent wet the bed. Maybe your Thanksgiving opponent got a lead on you. Either way, you need that what the heck flex. Who are some of your Week 12 what the heck flexes?
And see, these are the what the heck flex leftovers. But because some of the best or better ones were Thanksgiving, right? Tony Pollard, Cedric Wilson, etc. And when you said that there's powder for that, did I show my feet on the show? Because I'm wondering now after you said that. I didn't think I did. Dalton Hilliard, Dontrell Hilliard, Ty Johnson, DJ Dallas. It's because I'm down in Louisiana. The LSU vibes, the Saints vibes just suffuse everything. Wide receiver, Marcus Valdez-Scantling, Nick Westbrook-Akina, LaVisca Chenault, and maybe we can make him three names by calling him La Visca Chenault and Rashad Bateman. Good luck in Week 12, everyone.
What the heck flexovers?
What the heck's flexovers? Those are tasty. You put a little bit of cinnamon apple on in there.
I can't have any of that. Anyway, it is the Audible. Hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, whether that's working, whether that's shopping. Be safe if you go out. Here's my Black Friday rant. Really, we're going to trample each other for $300 TV? We're really going to do that? Okay. And all the memes coming out are like Mel Gibson and Braveheart, where it's like, hold, same price. And then it's the same price. Everybody go, charge. It's the same price. Rant about consumerism, rant about whatever. If you're out and about getting some deals, hell, I'm about ready to go to the comic book store, Bloom, right?
Record store. Me.
Okay. All right. What are you looking for at the record store?
Thundercat. They're reissuing Thundercat's debut album 10 years later. There's a Louis Armstrong record with the Louis Armstrong All-Stars, like a new band led by Nicholas Pateman, where the grooves are actually next to each other, as opposed to there's a song and there's another song. So depending on which groove you put the record needle in, you get either Louis Armstrong's version or the new version. It's pretty cool if you like records.
Okay. Doesn't it say a lot that you're going to go to the record store and I'm going to go to the comic book store?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, little vinyl, little expensive paper.
And what is pot stoner degenerate Jason going to do? That's what we really want to know. That's what inquiring minds want to know.
He's going to go to the gas station to get fried Twinkies, Mountain Dew. Right. And by gas station, I also mean the dispensary.
Yeah.
There's more dispensaries here than there are 7-Elevens and Starbucks. It's just Colorado, we treat you like adults.
Yeah.
Whether that's with weed or whether it's with 2A or whatever people are all upset about. It's like,
Right.
no, and it's not. Anyway, it's not a big deal here. It's not a big deal at all. Like Terrell Davis has a weed soda.
Yeah.
His company that makes like a weed soda, a CBD Gatorade or whatever. It's like, yeah, okay, fine. Go. You do you. Record store, comic book store, dispensary. Done.
In that order.
So that way you don't spend too much money.
Exactly.
Anyway, he's Sigmund. I'm Cecil. We love you all. Thanks for watching. Thanks for doing all the YouTube things. Like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you never miss a vid. Stay tuned. Stay safe. Well, when I say stay frosty, it does mean stay safe.
Yeah.
Be cautious and look out for danger. That's what I tell everybody every day when I say thanks for watching. Stay tuned and stay frosty.